Во време на сериозни безбедносни и политички превирања во регионот, во Европа и во целиот свет, официјална Виена смета дека проширувањето на Европската Унија мора да биде приоритет, без многу дебата и заобиколувања. Додека сите очи се вперени во Молдавија и Украина и така наречената брза трака, Австрија смета дека тоа би било катастрофална грешка доколку го исклучат Балканот. Затоа, новата сезона на Агенда 35 ја почнуваме од тука, од Виена, каде што ексклузивен гостин ни е министерот за надворешни работи и поранешен канцелар Александар Шаленберг. Останете со нас.
Акцијски план со конкретни чекори за спроведување на постепена интеграција на земјите од Западен Балкан до 2024 година и потоа. Како и редовна покана, овие земји неформално учествуваат на состаноците на Советот на Европската Унија, додека финансиската поддршка треба да стане поефикасна преку подобрен систем на стимулации, моделирани според плановите за реконструкција и отпорност. Сето ова е дел од планот на официјална Виена. Австриските министри за надворешни работи и европски интеграции Александар Шаленберг и Каролина Едштадлер сметаат дека Европската Унија итно треба да се фокусира на проширувањето, но не само декоративно, туку конкретно, особено имајќи го предвид целиот настанат хаос со Украина, но и статус квото во кое се наоѓаат земјите од Балканот по децении. Затоа во Виена разговаравме токму со шефот на австриската дипломатија, Шаленберг.
Mr. Schallenberg, thank you for having us here and thank you for being a part of our show. Austria and you yourself personally, you are among those political forces who are promoting fast enlargement of the Western Balkan countries, especially now when we are talking for a so-called fast line for Ukraine and Moldova. Why do you think it's important for the European Union to keep focused on the Balkans now?
Thank you for coming to Vienna and thank you for giving me this opportunity to explain myself. I believe for us, the Western Balkans is our immediate neighborhood. And I always say it's not the backyard, it's the center court, it's the patio of Europe. It's surrounded by EU member states. And from Austrian perspective, the EU integration is simply incomplete without the Western Balkans. And I'm talking about all 6 Western Balkan countries being fully integrated in the European Union. And you said something where I would already enter and say I disagree. We shouldn't have a two-class society among candidate countries. I don't want a situation following George Orwell's Animal Farm. All candidate countries are equal, but some are more equal than others. We have been in a process of enlargement for 20 years now, since Thessaloniki with the Western Balkans. And we shouldn't now put 2 countries, I'm talking about Ukraine and Moldova, on the fast lane, and put the other countries on the sidelines. That would be a grave geopolitical mistake. I believe there's a geopolitical moment now, because of the Russian war of aggression towards Ukraine, that every capital in Europe understands that enlargement is not a bureaucratic, legalistic process, but it's a geopolitical process. It's actually the most important geopolitical tool we have in the European Union. And when we think about the past, when Greece joined in 1981, it was to strengthen a young democracy. And when Spain and Portugal joined 5 years later in 1986, it was the same thing. Spain had a golpe, a tried coup d'etat in Madrid only 5 years earlier. So at that time, the leaders of Europe understood that enlargement is a geopolitical instrument and not a bureaucratic instrument. And we have to revert to this thinking again and understand it's either our model of life that we export stability and prosperity, or we might risk importing instability and insecurity.
Кога летоска Шаленберг беше во Скопје заедно со неговите колеги од Чешка и Словачка, Јан Липавски и Мирослав Влаховски, порача дека без неопходните уставни измени Македонија може да излета од шините кон Европската Унија, но многумина, главно поради погрешниот превод. Тоа тогаш го протолкуваа како закана дека земјата ќе биде изолирана. Шаленберг сега вели дека бил запрепастен како погрешно била преведена изјавата, но и како погрешно била примена неговата порака, и дека во Скопје дошол со најпријателски мотиви.
First of all, when I came in July together with my colleagues from the Czech Republic and Slovakia on behalf of the European Union, with a mandate from the High Representative Josep Borrell, we came as friends. And I was myself astonished when I found out later on how, due to some translations or whatever the reasons were, it created some emotionality, which I understand, it is a tricky issue. It is an emotional issue. And I would say positive thinking, that's good. As long as we are emotional about the European Union, it's a good sign. But yes, North Macedonia is for us a key partner in the region. North Macedonia has undergone enormous efforts to get as far as they did. And we finally managed to open accession negotiations last year. And now there's one step. It's the necessary amendments of the Constitution.
Во однос на уставните измени, тој вели дека ќе ја повтори пораката од тие не смеат да бидат дел од партиски или политички математики и дека иако ја разбира фрустрацијата кај граѓаните, клучно за земјата која и досега толку многу стори на својот пат по него е да продолжи напред, а дека секое реотварање на пакетот е ризик тој да стане Пандорина кутија. Сепак, во однос на цената на тој пат, измерена преку трговија со правдата, во однос на шпекулациите за позадината на измените на кривичниот законник, неговиот одговор е многу јасен.
You are following the debate about the changes of the criminal code in North Macedonia. Should we sacrifice the justice and the rule of law in the name of European Union?
That's obviously a trick question because the one goes with the other. And
that's
yes,
my point.
We are following the debates within North Macedonia very closely. You can imagine that nearly every day I'm briefed about something going on in the region. And if you talk about the amendments on the penal law, yes, we are concerned. And we have to keep up rule of law, and sanctions, especially on matters like corruption, have to be dissuasive and have to be proportionate.
Шаленберг е покрај ова верува дека ќе се најде најдоброто можно решение.
And again, as I said, there is a window of opportunity. A window of opportunity because of the war of Russia on Ukraine, the war of aggression, that capitals are thinking anew about enlargement and understand that there's no political vacuum. And yes, we do have Russia as a possible spoiler in the Western Balkans. We have seen it in the past. And I believe we have to understand that it's either Europe that is present and all these countries are part of the European family of values, or we might see suddenly alternative models of life or models of economy popping up that wouldn't be in our interest, and I believe very deeply it wouldn't be in the interest of the people of the region. So that is the main goal. I don't see my task in commenting internal policies. European Union is not a one-way street. It's not only Brussels having to deliver, it's also partners having to deliver. But I believe this is feasible.
Дел од земјите членки сепак строго стоят на ставот дека Европската унија прво мора внатрешно да се реформира, па дури потоа да прима нови член. Шаленберг вели дека апсолутно е неточно дека прво мора да се случат внатрешните реформи и дека ова е всушност само алиби на некои земји кои се против проширувањето.
Well, I mean, every organization has to be ready to reform. You cannot, stay fixed because otherwise you slowly die. But I would be very strong against using the reform debate as a pretext to, again, slow down enlargement. I was myself...
I've seen that.
Absolutely, it has been
statements.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm very clear. And I say no. Yes, there are things we can reform and we should look into, but it's not something which is a condition for enlargement. We have agreed in the Treaty of Lisbon the necessary institutional acts to be able to enlarge with all 6 countries of the Western Balkans. We have said so at the time. We can lower the members of the European Commission. We have rules on the European Parliament. We have rules on every institution. And we have decided on a decision-making process in the Council which is independent of the number of member states of the European Union. So we have everything in place. And I don't want now some countries which might be still hesitant to say we have to reform before we enlarge. I think both things have to go in common. And maybe I would even claim that enlargement could be a catalyst for reforms. So let's put it the other way around.
Ова меѓу другото е важно да се стори во услови кога ЕУ сака да се ја создаде својата позиција како клучен геополитички играч.
Well, I would claim that we are stronger, more resilient, more flexible than we believe ourselves. Who would have said on the 23rd of February that the EU27 will stay united, that the EU27 will have the capacity to adopt 11 sanctions packages? Probably nobody, or very few people. But we have been united up to now, and it's our biggest asset. And even during the pandemic, where everything I read about Europe is not present and is failing, well, actually looking back, The free pluralistic societies have been proven to be more adaptive, that they can learn, that they can change the course. Autocracies are not, and they have proven it again. So I believe, A, we are better and stronger than we believe ourselves, but yes, B, we have to get better. And we are seeing it especially in the so-called, I don't like the term, global south. If we see what is happening, the avalanche, you could say, we are seeing in Western Africa, in the Sahel region, where you have in Niger, for instance, anti-French slogans sung while Russian flags are waved. This should make us think twice that actually our soft power, our outreach is not good enough. We have to get better in explaining ourselves. If Russia is capable, while it's invading in a neo-imperialistic way, a neighboring country, is still capable to make everybody or some people believe that it is us who created the war, that it's our problem, that we are the imperialists, then we have something we have to do about. And I believe that is the big change which is taking place now. And Austria is among those countries favoring and pushing for a more coordinated outreach of the European Union. Without lecturing, without finger-pointing, without moralizing, taking partners seriously, respectfully, but still explaining our clear position.
Интервјуто со министерот го завршивме со разговор за предизвиците на демократијата денес. Шаленберг е заболат демократ, кој покрај сите превирања во светски рамки е убеден дека нема подобар систем и дека потребно е сите демократи да бидат погласни, но и да им биде обезбеден поголем простор во политиката, јавноста и во медиумите.
I would make 2 points. I don't believe democracy is in a crisis. Yes, we are in a minority on this planet. About 20% of states worldwide follow our model of life, pluralistic, liberal democracies. But I still believe deeply it's the best system to give individual people the possibility to live their lives according to their own beliefs. That we are challenged in some countries, that we have either left-wing or right-wing, far right or far left parties coming up.
They're meeting somewhere in some
Absolutely,
point.
but yeah, absolutely, politics is like a circle, actually. Is something we have to deal with, but it doesn't put into doubt democracy per se. And sometimes we have to be careful about the way we talk about democracy. I'm constantly saying now, let's watch out that we don't treat elections as the source of problems. Elections are the very heart of democracy. And if we think about the upcoming American elections in the United States, if we think about Slovakia, we think about Austria, we think about France or many other countries, or think about the debates we had on Italy before Meloni took over, and she's doing a brilliant job. So let's watch out that we don't treat elections as a source of inconvenience, of problems and insecurity. It's the very heart of our democracy. And yes, we have to debate, we have to explain ourselves. And I believe still that democracy is made by the center. We always hear, and that's our biggest problems as politicians too, the 20% at the fringes left and right who shout, who are loud in the media. The 60% in the middle who simply want to live their lives, have a decent income, have a perspective, and have a sense of security. Those are mostly not heard enough in the public realm, but they make up democracy. So I'm positive. Yes, we have to do our explanation, but never forget that we are actually in a global struggle. And we have found out brutally now the last 2 years that our way of living is considered by some as an act of aggression. An act of aggression which, in their eyes, justifies them to react with military means. And that should, to a certain degree, embolden us, because it means that our model of life is very strong.
Mr. Schallenberg, thank you very much for these messages. I think it's very important to keep this spirit in promoting democracy worldwide. Thank you for being part of Agenda 35.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming to Vienna.
Енергетската криза ни оддалеку не е завршена, туку напротив. Веројатноста дека ни предстои уште една тешка зима со нови зголемувања на цените на енергијата е се поголема, особено откако војниот конфликт што избумна на Блискиот Исток веќе ги вивна цените на нафтата нагоре. Стравувањата дека војната може да ескалира во целиот регион, кој што го снабдува светот со 1/3 од вкупната поварувачка за нафта, навестуваат дека и граѓаните и фирмите треба да се подготвуваат и за најлошите ценовни сценарија. Никој не може со сигурност да предвиди што ќе се случува, меѓутоа ситуацијата очигледно бара ажурност од институциите за да превенираат нов ценовен удар. За прогнозите на цените на енергијата на кои не ни им требаше војна за да продолжат да растат, разговаравме со првиот човек на една од најголемите компании од овој сектор во земјава, Евана. Разговорот го водевме непосредно пред настанувањето на новата ситуација на Блискиот Исток, но изгледите се секако неизвестни.
I would say that we do not expect that the price of electricity will come down to the level which was before the crisis, yeah. But hopefully will stabilize at least more or less on this level. Nobody, and even I cannot give a guarantee for the next winter, but I have the impression that the whole sector, including the regulatory commission, including the institutions, including our experts and colleagues from EVN and even the colleagues from ESMA and MEPSO are very aware of this topic and doing the best to be prepared for the upcoming months. Yeah. On a long term speaking, I would say one of the bigger tasks is this energy transition to come more to renewable energies. Yeah. This is from the long term probably important to also invest in this sector because it helps us to do a sustainable business and also to reduce the CO2 emissions. EVN Macedonia invests intensively into the renewables. I mean, we have at the moment around 60 megawatt installed capacity of renewables, and we'll increase it this year by 15 megawatt and will come up to 100 megawatt. This is, of course, for the whole country speaking, a small part only, but it is a contribution, so I would say. And to sum up, I would say that we can be cautiously optimistic for the next winter, but also we have to say everybody has to do his homework. Yeah, that means we have to do it. Yeah, so from the supply point of view as well, but also from the demand point of view. Yeah, so if everybody does his tasks, I'm cautiously optimistic, as I said.
Мајер вели дека енергетската криза е еден од главните предизвици за инвеститорите и нивните одлуки за бизнисот. Меѓутоа, зборувајќи за бизнис климата, според него има уште неколку акутни проблеми за кои што треба да се најдат решенија.
The energy crisis increased the costs for some industries significantly, and some of them had to adapt or even to change their business models. But I would say that the measures which have been taken by the institutions and also with the support of the European family, so to say, were quite helpful to overcome this situation. So there is now we can see a certain stabilization, I would say, but still we have to be careful, of course, on the future. Another challenge is the lack of workforce in the labor market. But this is not only a Macedonian topic, this is a topic of whole Europe, I would say. Yeah. I was responsible for the HR in the group in my former position in EVN, and it's really a big challenge because without the suitable and motivated people, it will be very difficult to manage the future. And we can even state there is a lack, a big minus of students, for example, who go to electrotechnical faculty here in North Macedonia, yes, which is a burden for us, and we have to manage this. As EVN, we have taken some measures on this topic. One is that we implemented a kind of double education, that means school and working at the same time, like it is used in some European countries.
Како представник на најголемата австријска компанија во земјава, го прашавме Мајер колку бизнис секторот ја дели загриженоста со меѓународната заедница околу владењето на правото и корупцијата. Ама дека во земјава се краде и тоа поминува неказнето, зборува и искуството на оваа компанија.
Generally, I would say compliance in the legislation and administration is the basis for the development of any segment, including the business segment in each country on this world. Yeah. As a representative of EVN, I can just say that we fully respect the law here in North Macedonia, and additionally we have very strict rules for compliance, which we have within EVN, which we have to reach at 100 at 100%. From this point of view, this is the basis for long-term successful working in not only in Macedonia, but generally speaking. What is a big topic here is the stealing of electricity. I can very clear point out that this is not acceptable for our company. It is not acceptable for me as a person that someone takes products or services without paying. Yeah? In technical words, we call these losses non-technical losses, which is stealing in reality of electricity, and we do everything, not only in the past but also now and in the near future, to reduce these non-technical losses. We have done a huge efforts on investments also in this field, and we will strongly stay on that. But I will also mention from in a very positive way that I have the impression that now the society is behind us, because nobody who pays for electricity can understand that another person does not pay. Yeah? But we also have the full support of the institutions, of the state institutions in the country at the moment, really the full support, yeah, and also from the media mostly speaking, yeah.
Мајер вели дека земјата мора да ги направи потребните реформи на патот кон ЕУ, а евроинтеграциите несомнено би ги подобриле условите за водење бизнис.
The European question from the business perspective, it is clear that the European market is a quite huge market, and it brings, of course, advantages for the business sector, because you can easier trade your products and services, yeah. And from the view of people seen, yeah, of course, there are also more opportunities to work, to take educations, and to have also even more maybe options on the labor market for both sides, yeah. So these are the most important things, I would say, yeah. And from my personal point of view, yeah, I would say, or I'm really sure that I see much more perspectives than risks on this topic. Yeah. So personally hoping that Macedonia will soon be part of the European family, and I'm really sure that many potentials can be raised through this.
И оваа сезона Агенда 35 ќе биде вашиот водич низ процесот на европските интеграции, со фокус таму каде што е најважно и каде што Македонија стои најслабо, на вистинските реформи. Останете со нас со програмите на македонската телевизија. Се гледаме следната недела.